So I just want to start off by telling you I'm going to answer a few questions, what I might be able to answer after the information I'm about to give you. I'm done giving it to you. The victim in this case is the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. You'll see that in the probable cause affidavit once it becomes public record.
A man who lives within miles of Mar-a-Lago was just recently arrested for threats to the president. CNN and MSNBC, they continue to see their ratings drop. As many predict, most of their shows are close to being completely axed. President Trump gets a hero's welcome in Las Vegas as he doubles down on one important policy promise. A Democratic governor is suddenly changing their tune on immigration, and a top Democrat is blaming his own party for the president's surge in popularity. Guys, I've got all of that and a lot more to talk about today. So let's start with what's happening in Florida. And guys, thank you so much for hitting the like button. Thank you so much for sharing this video. Let's go ahead and jump in.
Let's begin with Dana Marie McNichol. She's following the breaking news out of West Palm Beach on those threats against the president. Dana Marie.
Hey, John, it was a tip called into the FBI that led police to a social media page that raised many red flags. So police say 46-year-old Shannon Atkins from West Palm Beach was arrested last night near his home after they found a series of violent posts that threatened the life of President Trump. Now, you can see here are screenshots at a press conference of the Facebook post that police say led to his arrest. He claims he was banned from X after writing, quote, "I hope and pray someone kills him." He goes on to write on that post, quote, "History is supposed to repeat itself. We haven't had an assassination in years." Now, West Palm Beach Police Department chief, he commented, he said, "In today's climate, you really can't say things like this." Less than a week removed from President Trump's inauguration, authorities are taking these threats extremely seriously after 2 attempts on President Trump's life in just 7 months, the most recent taking place miles from his home in Mar-a-Lago. Now, according to our affiliate, Atkins is facing 1 count of written or electronic threats to kill, do bodily injury, or conduct a mass shooting or an act of terrorism, a 2nd-degree felony. So very serious threats. Police also say he had 3 bags of cocaine on him at the time of his arrest.
Now, this guy's defense is that the posts were merely jokes. And this is what the left started with different politicians and even celebrities. Remember when Kamala Harris joked about being in an elevator with Trump and her asking, "Does one of us have to come out alive?" The same could be said for former President Joe Biden, who just kept talking about bringing Trump behind the school gym where he could beat him up. All the while, allies and some in Hollywood continue to call him a threat to democracy. That rhetoric, it really has to go away, because whether they like him or not, he is the president of the United States. And as much as they want to project that he's the one with a violent agenda, it's obvious to anyone with common sense that this just couldn't be further from the truth. Now, I'm guessing that this guy is going to be an example of just how serious these threats will be taken. And if I'm being honest here, I mean, these should be taken as serious as possible, no matter who's in office. The Secret Service has been notified about these posts, and now it's up to them to decide if federal charges should be filed. Moving on though, left-leaning media news outlets are seeing their ratings plummet. Both CNN and MSNBC are deciding on which cuts they need to make in order to keep themselves afloat. Now, we've already seen pay cuts to many notable journalists, and CNN's Jim Acosta is even thinking about quitting his job entirely. In his show recently, Acosta closed his morning show by saying that he was still reporting from Washington. Now, we'd only assume that this is a nod to the network's decision to possibly move him to a graveyard shift. One insider from CNN says that the anchor is getting hosed by the network. It's also come out that they're cutting their workforce by at least 6%. Now, if you ask me, I'm kind of looking at this like a set of cards. If you have a losing hand, shuffling your cards probably not going to do anything, which is what CNN is trying to do by shuffling around the same set of anchors to different times. MSNBC on its end has Rachel Maddow having a full-blown meltdown after President Trump pardoned J6ers.
This is something that we've not seen in the United States, right? This is something where you've got a law and order supposed party championing people who are in prison for beating police officers with baseball bats. I mean, we haven't seen this. But I do think if you widen the aperture, we have absolutely seen this over and over and over and over again in all modern countries where authoritarians take over. One of the things they first do for the last 100 years, anytime you have an authoritarian take over a democracy, is that they find people who have committed political violence on their behalf, and they free them and vindicate them and make them heroes and effectively spread the word that if you commit violence on behalf of the leader, you're above the law and you won't be held accountable for it. It's a way to terrorize the rest of the population so that unaccountable violent forces might turn up at your doorstep if you oppose this president. It's what all of these losers do. Trump has done it on day one. We knew to see it coming, but now we have to fight back.
That's weird because years ago, Rachel Maddow was blasting the police force because of George Floyd. But now she wants to be back on their side since it's probably detrimental to Trump. And it's obvious that she has TDS, right? Because she always sides with whoever's going against the president, which could explain why their ratings are dropping so fast. In fact, President Trump posted an early morning post on Truth Social calling out the MSNBC host. So here's his post. Wow, Rachel Maddow has horrible ratings. She will be off the air very soon. MSNBC is close to death. CNN has reached the bottom. This is a good thing. They are the enemy of the people. And this is a reference to these stations peddling propaganda to the people of this country. Things are so bad for them, as even Bill Maher is saying that Democrats messed up.
Here's how bad the Democrats f***ed up. Trump is cool now. He's not just the most powerful guy in the world and just made himself like the richest. He's actually kind of at 78. Yes. I mean, rappers like him. Yeah.
The president is also making good on his promises. He was recently in Nevada where he talked about removing taxes on tips. Apparently, he didn't forget.
Near the top of the agenda for our historic Republican majorities in Congress is to pass a massive tax cut for American workers and families. Last year, we campaigned across the country on a pledge that I'm sure most of you didn't hear too much about. Pledge to take the Trump tax cuts and make them permanent, and that's exactly what we're doing. In the coming weeks, I'll be working with Congress to get a bill on my desk that cuts taxes for workers, families, small businesses, and very importantly, keeps my promise for a thing called, and I know you didn't hear anything about this, and I'm sure it had no influence on the state, the fact that we won this crazy, massive majority, a state that hadn't been won by a Republican in decades. But I'm sure you haven't heard, but we're going to get it for you. No tax on tips. No tax on tips. So if you're a restaurant worker, a server, a valet, a bellhop, a bartender, or one of my caddies, I go through caddies like candy. If I play badly, I always blame my caddy. Or any other worker who relies on tipped income, your tips will be 100% yours. Won't that be?
Besides the rally, the president also visited a Las Vegas casino floor, where he was met with chants of USA as he joined a small group who was playing in one table. Trump himself didn't play, but he made sure to remind people of his intent to remove taxes on tips as he walked away. Now, I'm probably going to say this a lot the next 4 years, but it's kind of like the president is moving so fast between states, something that we've missed the last 4 years since President Biden wasn't as present to the public as this. Another promise from the president that he's delivering on would be mass deportations. Remember that many Democratic officials are against this idea, but with Tom Homan now running things 24/7, opinions are starting to change.
At least 7 Democrat-led cities remain defiant, including Boston, but Massachusetts governor is beginning to change her tune.
If the Trump administration requests it, would the Massachusetts State Police assist in mass deportations?
No, absolutely not. Every tool in the toolbox has got to be used to protect our citizens, to protect our residents, and protect our state.
I wouldn't describe them as raids. It seems to be is what we expected and what I support, which is the apprehension of criminals in our communities.
At the end of the day, guys, these elected officials, they have to understand what American people voted for. And it's probably only a matter of time until more of these woke mayors and governors realize that. Now, this kind of reminds me of my coverage of President Trump's visit to California. Now, I went over this in a previous video that you guys absolutely have to check out. And you're not going to believe what California Governor Gavin Newsom did as the president arrived in his state. As always, appreciate y'all hitting the like button. Thank you so much for sharing this video. You guys are awesome. We'll see you guys next time.